Friends, excuse me. Pardon?
It is.
Yes, it is. Can you hear me? Hello. And they say hello back. As we reflect on Earth Sunday, invite your imagination to help us with this morning's Earth Sunday Peace Candle. For example, I'm the news anchor, Globe L. Warming. The other four are reporters from sites far and wide. You say, wait a minute, there are only three others. Use your imagination. You are listening to Earth Stewardship News on WYFP. This just in from Glasgow, Scotland, our global correspondent, Richard Kilmer.
I was grateful to First Parish Church in Yarmouth for commissioning me to attend the important UN Conference on Climate Change in Glasgow, Scotland. A question that I have received since returning in November of last year is, was the Glasgow Conference a success? The litany of successes is profound. This summit secured new agreements to end deforestation. 105 countries signed the Global Methane Pledge, including half of the world's 30 methane-emitting countries. China and the US pledged to do more to cut emissions this decade. Over 40 countries pledged to phase out coal. However, the greatest shortcoming of COP26 was that the national goals of all 196 nations, when combined, do not reduce greenhouse gas emissions enough, both to keep the rise in global temperature to 1.5 degrees centigrade, a target set by the Paris Agreement, or to enable the Earth to produce net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. So was COP26 a success? In some respects, no. In others, yes. But now its successes must be implemented and improved upon in Maine and throughout the nation. Each of us can urge communities in Maine to take ambitious action to limit warming to 1.5 degrees, which will require the world to cut its emissions by half by 2030 and virtually eliminate them by 2050. We can say that COP26 delivered success only if the federal government and our communities in Maine move with speed and vigor. It's now up to us.
Thank you, Rich. Now from Maine State House in Augusta, Yarmouth's own state legislator, the Honorable Art Bell.
The Pine Tree Amendment, securing the right to a clean and healthy environment for all people in Maine, including future generations. 400 years ago, when our ancestors first arrived in North America, they found a land relatively untouched by humans. Yes, there were people here. They had been here for thousands of years. But the indigenous people have a long history of protecting the natural world and defending their lands from exploitive environmental practices of modern society. The agricultural practices used by the indigenous people, such as water harvesting and crop rotation, naturally enhance food security, maintain biodiversity, and encourage the sustainable management of natural resources. So now move forward 100 years, and America is becoming a country, and our ancestors are drafting a constitution for our new country. And they wrote that we have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There was no mention to the right to clean air, clean water, and the right to a healthy environment. There was no need for that because the air, the water, the environment was clean and always had been clean and always would be clean. There was no reason to think it wouldn't be clean. But now we move forward to today, and things are vastly different. For some time, we have observed that our environment has been changing. By the 1950s, people were beginning to question what we were doing to our planet, and they were beginning to turn the page. Realize that it was us humans that were altering the planet. In fact, scientists, historians, and philosophers have come up with a new name, Anthropocene, the human-centric for this new era in our history. They can't agree as to when this period starts, maybe as far back as the agricultural revolution or the industrial revolution or the atomic age of the 1950s. But one fact is clear: the Earth is changing. The climate is warming, biodiversity is diminishing, and the pace of change is increasing. The Pine Tree Amendment acknowledges all this. In Maine, we have many laws intended to protect and preserve our environment, and yet we experience environmental degradation every day. Adding the Pine Tree Amendment to our state Bill of Rights will raise up the inalienable rights of all people in Maine to a clean and healthy environment. It will become a guiding principle and obligation for all state government action, from local town councils to the state legislature. In my first session as Yarmouth State Legislator, I had the privilege of serving on the Committee of Environmental and Natural Resources. I've heard hours of testimony that have laid out cases for the damage that we citizens of Maine have inflicted upon our beloved state over the past many years. This summer alone, we've all witnessed the death and destruction caused by severe weather across the country as hurricanes, floods, heat waves, and wildfires have occurred. And scientists have more and more evidence all the time that these extreme weather events are made more frequent and intense by climate change. But there is good news. Our youth will lead us. The Green Voices Society, a student group at Yarmouth High School, has urged the Yarmouth Town Council to join other Maine municipalities in bold climate action. They have advocated for Yarmouth to adopt a climate emergency revolution, and they succeeded. Passing this resolution sends a message to the young people of Maine and Yarmouth that they can make a difference and their voices are heard in local government. And just this past month, the Youth Climate Council came to Augusta to rally for the passage of the Pine Tree Amendment. I was thrilled to have Maya and Paul Fostich, that aren't here this morning, join me in supporting the Pine Tree Amendment, which unfortunately fell just shy of passage. But just so you know, the young people like Maya are behind this movement, and this gives me hope that it will pass sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilors, legislator, friend. And now, speaking from Royal River Park here in Yarmouth, a man I am said to resemble, Bill Gregory. Think globally, act locally. When the only human beings in this part of the world were native peoples, the Royal River was an integral part of the health of Casco Bay, the Gulf of Maine, even the Atlantic Ocean. It was doing its part for the planet. You may ask, how? The waters ran cold, well oxygenated. There were no dams holding the water, warming it in a pond-like impoundment. No dams blocked multiple species of fish, freshwater spawning sea fish, such as salmon and alewives. Today, with the Gulf of Maine warming faster than virtually any other part of an ocean in the world, with fish population rapidly decreasing, with industry on the Royal long gone, the dams remain, blocking fish passage, inhibiting oxygenation, warming waters that could be cooling the bay, the Gulf, the ocean, the earth. It's just a small part, but it's our part. It is a river for which we're responsible. We are not alone in our neglect. That's what World Fish Migration Day is all about. It's about educating people along rivers of the world to wake up. This is my breaking news. On Saturday, May 21st, Yarmouth will celebrate World Fish Migration Day right here in Royal River Park, a time to bring together the interested and the concerned of all ages to celebrate the river and learn what we can do to restore our river, to play our part locally for the river and for life on the earth. It'll be education and it will be fun. The feature of our World Fish Migration Day will be Miku Paul. Miku is a First Nations woman, a Maliseet poet, artist, educator. She will teach us about the river and its peoples before the dams and what it could be now. There will be music. A First Nation flute player will perform, as will two great string players and singers of folk and original music. Fish art created and displayed by children of the Yarmouth School, so wonderful in its development that it is being submitted to the contest for fish art, for environmental art, for open river art, to the gathering that started World Fish Migration Day in the Netherlands. There will be face painting, there'll be a food truck, there will be a scavenger hunt for hidden replicas of fish and other life forms that could be in the river without dams. Nonprofits working for a Healthy Planet will staff educational tables. There will be educational walking tours of the Elm Street Dam every half hour, and more. Don't miss it. Learn more. Have fun. Make a difference. Summing things up for us today's program is Sue Inches. I'm not sure where she is. She may still be in Colorado Springs at Colorado College lecturing on her new book, Advocacy for the Environment.
As, excuse me, as my students like to remind me, we're facing a serious situation. What I'm talking about here is carbon emissions. I'm talking about toxic chemicals, which are pervasive on the earth. I'm talking about a runaway consumer economy. I'm talking about corporations that can introduce all kinds of products without restriction and without accountability for what they do to the earth. We're in a serious situation. So this is a challenge, of course, but it also represents an opportunity. And that opportunity is for all of us to work together to create a healthy future, a future that we all would want to have. But this is going to require all hands on deck to do it, which is why I like to say advocacy is for everyone. It's going to take all of us. So I like to say it's wonderful that Rich can go to Glasgow, Art can advocate in Augusta, Bill can advocate for the Royal River. But I realize not all of us can do those things. But what I like to say is that everyone can advocate in their own daily life. I'll give you a few examples. If you're a landscaper, you can advise your clients not to use toxic chemicals on their lawn. If you like to cook, or you're in the restaurant business, you can use locally sourced ingredients and explain why that's important. If you run a business, you can eliminate fossil fuels from your business operations. If you're an investor, you can divest from fossil fuels and use those funds to invest in promising new sustainable technologies. So I urge you to think about what can you do in your life to advocate for the environment. It's essential that you do this because our future and the future of our children and grandchildren depend on it.
Would you pray with me? Loving Creator, you who shed tears even as we mourn, you who smile when we rise to the call, make us instruments for the preservation of life on your earth, not instruments of its destruction. Amen.